Bro Science Breakdown.
Fun fact, taking cold showers is really bad for you, and you should avoid them. If you believe this, allow me to debunk you. Welcome to Bro Science Breakdown, where I discuss healthy living for my fellow young folks every second Monday, not every Monday. Thanks for stopping by. I'm Arthur, an early high school grad who struggled with my self-image for a long time. I was eventually able to overcome my struggles, and I might be able to help you with yours as well. So, if you're around 18, then you've come to the right place. This is episode 11, and today, I'll be discussing more about my life. Yeah, real talk too, baby. I want to yap about my life more often, to be honest, and this is the best way for me to do it. I would yap to my friends, though after a certain point it feels like I'm doing some unnecessary flexing. I kinda feel bad talking their ears off, so this is the best option. Also, seeing as this reaches the ears of more people, that's a win for me. To be more specific, I'll be discussing the results of the previous month-long challenge, the progress in the current month-long challenge, and speculating about my future month-long challenge. If you'd like me to do a certain challenge in the future or cover a certain topic, comment down below, and I'll be sure to do that to the best of my abilities. First, let's go over the results of the challenge that has already passed a long time ago. By the time I'm writing this, it feels like ancient history for internet standards. It lasted from the 1st of April, ironically enough, and ended on the 30th. Honestly, I continued cold showering after the challenge officially ended because of how much I liked it, but I'm already getting ahead of myself. So this idea came to me after reminiscing on how I used to take cold showers every day. Those are the days that I had much more energy throughout the day. After working out, I washed myself with waters cold enough to freeze on Venus. Those minutes in the shower that dragged on like hours were honestly unpleasant, though the benefits they provided lasted a lot longer. Oh man, I can now see why boomers talk about the good old days as if they were leading the lives of gods. It feels great to talk about the past like this. I soon stopped taking cold showers altogether, as I came across this one video that was meant to dissuade people from taking cold showers. That was when I still scrolled through TikTok like a mindless zombie, but that's a topic for another episode. Anyways, the video stated, in short, that cold showers led to issues like fertility loss and a decrease in test levels in the long term. I was absolutely convinced that this was true, and I stopped taking cold showers. In hindsight, the argument that the video brought up was flimsy at best, as the points that he mentioned had a very limited valid scientific backing, but I guess this shows that hindsight is 20/20. I do regret stopping my cold shower habit, though that's in the past. Now let's move on to more recent history. So on the 1st of April, I was thinking about taking a cold shower. Seeing as it was the 1st of the month, I capitalized on this opportunity for content. Getting back into the habit of taking cold showers. I stepped into the shower, giddy with excitement about the prospect of finally returning to my old habits. Long story short, cutting out a few graphic details, I was cold. Obviously, I was shivering throughout the entire shower despite trying to acclimate myself to the frigid water by slowly lowering the temperature. Yeah, I know, that's a pussy move, but I mean, come on. It was such a long time since the last time I took a cold shower. I had to do something to get my body used to the sensation. You know, all things considered, I didn't even lower the temperature down really low. It was sort of a medium coldish temperature rather than the freezing cold temperature I used to shower with. The following several days were slightly similar, as I began to get used to showering at colder temperatures. The cold began to feel cool, eventually feeling normal when I got the temperature down after acclimation. The feeling after showering was underwhelming. I thought that I'd get this huge boost of energy from the cold shower, though the most that I got at the time was a small spike of energy. Not gonna lie, the water was probably not cold enough. I'd like to take this opportunity to explain the benefits of taking cold showers, including the energy boost and how it happens physiologically. First, cold showers are great for improving blood circulation throughout the body. The cold water hits the surface of the skin, causing the veins at the surface to contract. This, in turn, redirects the blood flow to more important regions of the body like the heart and brain. Besides obviously helping with good blood circulation and pressure, it also assists in muscle recovery and cardiovascular health. The increase in blood flow to the brain, along with the cold shower itself, also leads to mental clarity and even mood elevation. So when you come in contact with cold water, your body releases the neurotransmitters cortisol, adrenaline, and noradrenaline as a reaction. This is because this triggers the body's fight or flight response. As a result, it leads to the increase in energy, alertness, and mental clarity that can last a lot longer after the cold shower ends. It's like taking shots, but without the crappy side effects of alcohol. The body also releases dopamine as a response to the cold shower, which subsequently leads to an elevation in mood. That's why cold showers are recommended to battle depressive symptoms and help promote good thoughts. The other benefits include a reduction in muscle soreness and inflammation, better skin and hair health, increased metabolism, better weight management, and ironically enough, a stronger immune system. Don't forget about the good blood flow. If you know, you know. So I faithfully continued taking cold showers each morning, getting more and more adjusted to the uncomfortable situation I forced myself into. As I did so, I slowly lowered the final temperature of the shower. That was until the end of the second week, where the shower reached very cold status. It was then that I decided that I didn't want to get any colder than this temperature. I instead switched to making this transition from lukewarm to frigid shorter and shorter. You know, thinking about it now, I was basically Stockholm syndroming myself into taking cold showers. This took place between the beginning of week 2 and the beginning of week 3. I soon began getting used to practically instantaneous exposure to the cold water, and went on showering like this for the rest of the month. I never seemed to get used to the initial shock of the frigid water coming into contact with my skin. I think that's a good thing, not gonna lie, because that allowed me to get the rush of energy that I was looking for. So you might be asking right now, Arthur, why aren't you cutting the shit and getting to the point? Well, you impatient bastard, I'm getting there. So the results of the challenge were unsurprising. Well, I mean, what else would I expect coming into a challenge like this? Cold showers equals more energy and more focus. So after each shower, which followed a workout session, it allowed me to recover the energy lost when I was pumping iron. Well, actually pumping rubber, because my gym is too much of a to have real iron. It just occurred to me that it also might be to save money, which is a good point all things considered, though it won't stop me from calling them a Anyways, it also gave me a sense of great mental clarity, which made the rest of my day much more productive than it normally would be. Writing my script would be much more efficient, and studying for calculus would go by a hell of a lot faster, just to name a few examples off the top of my head. Now remember how I mentioned wanting to continue taking cold showers regularly? Well, after a few days of the challenge ending, I realized that I didn't want to continue with it like the way I was doing. I had a taste of warm showers recently, and I did something bold. I decided to mix the worlds of cold and warm showers, making a big brain balance. So I first started off with a warm shower, washed myself with shampoo and body wash and other stuff. Afterwards, I'd crank the handle all the way down to the coldest temperature, and stand there for about a minute. No preparation, no adjusting myself like that one experiment with the frog slowly getting boiled to death. Just straight up freezing my ass off right after a pleasant warm shower. I think it's more sustainable that way, and the shock is even greater, which gives me more energy. Basically a win-win for me. Now let's move on to the current challenge that I'm doing. Only bodyweight exercises for myself, so basically calisthenic stuff. To be honest, it's a nice change of pace. I'm not sure how I got the idea, though when it came to mind, I knew that would be just perfect. So you see, I'm trying to tackle two calisthenic skills at the same time, the planche and the front lever. So the planche is basically holding a plank in the push-up position, but you're leaning forward and your feet are off the ground. It's like making yourself a bridge. As for the front lever, it's basically the same thing but hanging off of a pull-up bar. Imagine yourself parallel to the ground, while your arms are at a 45-degree angle holding onto the bar. As you might imagine, both of these require a ton of core strength. Thankfully I already have that somewhat covered. Now it's just worrying about the form from now on. Seeing as these two exercises are super hard, I'm starting off with the tucked versions of them. So I basically have my legs tucked into my stomach, holding them in like a fetal position. As you extend your legs, the harder the position becomes to hold. So your goal, or my goal in this case, is to slowly extend my legs until I'm able to hold them out in a straight log. When you're able to hold that position, that's called the full planche and the full front lever respectively. That's what I would consider a success. I obviously wouldn't be able to achieve a full planche or the full front lever by the end of the month, but I think I might be able to achieve the advanced tucked variation of at least one of them, which is just a tucked variation with my legs slightly more extended. At the beginning of the challenge, I could barely hold the tucked front lever, and I couldn't even do the tucked planche. It was so hard for me to do them. I also checked how many pull-ups and dips I could do. I counted 12 controlled, dead hang after each rep pull-ups, and 15 dips. Right now, I'm able to hold a slightly advanced tucked front lever for about 10 seconds, and the tucked planche for about 7 or 8ish seconds. I'm also able to do now 14 pull-ups and 20 dips with the same form as I did at the start of the challenge. I think I'm doing quite well for myself, all things considered. Pretty proud of myself. So here's my current workout split for the challenge. Monday rest, Tuesday back and biceps, Wednesday chest and triceps, Thursday rest, Friday and Saturday skills, and Sunday rest. So you might have noticed that I'm missing a certain day, a certain special day, leg day. Well, please kindly off about that. I'll be breaking down what I'm exactly doing each day. So for the rest day, it goes without saying what I do, kind of obvious. On Tuesday and every other gym day, I start off with a warm-up. I take a resistance band and do a movement similar to the dumbbell external rotation. I basically hold the resistance band in front of me, making it parallel to the ground. I stretch the band, then control the way back down. It kind of looks like I'm trying to rip it in half, but I make the movements purposeful and controlled. Right after that, I put my hands relatively far apart on the resistance band to start the next stretch. I hold the band in front of me, slowly raise it above my head, and move the band behind my back. It's basically making an arc motion above me and behind me. I then invert that motion. I do 2 sets of each before starting the proper workout. On back day, I start off with pull-ups. Rather than just having my chin go over the bar, I touch the bar with my chest, pause for a bit, then control the weight down. I make sure to control the weight down before ending at a dead hang. Seeing as I'm not allowed to use extra weight in this challenge, I want to have the biggest stimulus on my muscles. I think this is also a good tip for people doing pull-ups. I remember Dr. Mike Isertel said that most people miss out on the benefits of pull-ups because they don't go all the way down to a dead hang. I think that's where the biggest stretch is, and Dr. Mike seems to agree. After 3 sets of that to failure with about 1.5 minutes of rest in between, I move on to my next exercise. I do 3 sets of holding the slightly advanced tucked front lever, making sure that my back is parallel to the ground and my arms are straight. They're really important for making sure I have good form throughout the workout. I'd like to also mention here that I use wrist straps to make extra sure that my form is good. I specifically have the ones for calisthenics. I think you can use the ones for weightlifting, though I'm not too sure about that. Then I move on to the last exercise of the day. I know it sounds like it's not a lot in terms of volume, but hear me out. Calisthenics is really taxing on the body, seeing as there aren't many proper isolation movements. A lot of the calisthenics movements are, at the very least, compound movements, with some being full body movements like muscle-ups. It's even more tiring if you go all the way to failure like I do. So I then move on to bodyweight rows. My gym has these ring things, not sure what they're called, that allow me to do the bodyweight rows. They have D handles on each end. Anyways, I use an underhand grip to work more of the biceps, seeing as the pull-ups already hit the back pretty good. At the end of back day, and every other gym day for that matter, I do some cardio. To be honest, I don't do too much cardio. I do enough just to get about 10 to 12,000 steps in, and I think that's just enough for me. In fact, if I have to work that day, I do even less cardio. My work allows me to get a good amount of steps in, which makes me doing cardio that day a little redundant in my opinion. For chest and triceps, I start off with dips. I unfortunately don't have a dip bar in my gym, forcing me to use the cardio machines as a makeshift dip bar. I don't go too deep into the dips, as according to Jeff Nifford, the minimal amount of gains are not worth it. Seeing as how I trust Mr. Jeffrey Nipples, I go about medium depth before going back up. Next up is the tucked planche. I use wooden parallettes, which are bars that allow me to have a good grip while doing certain calisthenics skills. I mean, I could just use my hands. However, I find it much easier to use parallettes. Just like with the tucked front levers, I make sure that my arms are fully extended. I also make sure that my scapula, or the shoulder blades, are protracted. Imagine moving your shoulder blades away from your spine by pushing in front of you. Protracting your scapula is really important for the planche, as it recruits muscles more efficiently and helps prevent injury. Okay, just to quickly mention before I move on, I do 3 sets of tricep extensions with the wooden parallettes. So imagine tricep pushdowns with the straight bar, but instead of doing it on the cable, I basically hold out my arms, kind of like a weird plankish hold, but whatever. Just look at the YouTube if you want to see the visual. Now finally for the skill days. You might be wondering what the hell I mean by skill days. Basically, I'm doing more advanced movements like the muscle up, the tucked planche, and tucked front lever on this day. I also sometimes do L-sits if I have the energy to do so. I constantly rotate the order of what movement I start with, seeing as they're really exhausting. I'm basically rotating what muscles I favor each skill day. By the way, I can do about 5 muscle-ups in a row, which I'm really proud of. At the start of this challenge, I could only do 3 at most. Just like with the cold showers, I would like to continue with calisthenics. I usually dedicate Sunday to calisthenics skills. Now that I'm more adept at the skills I could barely do a month ago, it gives me more options for what I can do. It allows me to make more efficient use of my time. Seeing as I couldn't do the tucked planche back then, I had to do frog stand, and then advanced frog stand. It's basically like the tucked planche, but rather than holding my legs in the air, I'm resting them against my arms. It's more of a technique-based skill rather than a strength-based skill. Therefore, it recruits less muscles, which in turn is less efficient for training plunge. Now let's move on to the future challenge. Now this one doesn't have anything to do with exercise at all, but something still tangentially related to health. For all of June, I'll be dutifully waking up at 5 AM. Well, that excludes the 2nd and 4th Sunday of that month, seeing as I do some last-minute editing on those days. I pull crazy all-nighters to ensure my episodes release on the following Monday. But otherwise, I'll make sure that I wake up at the crack of dawn. Not gonna lie, this is probably the reality for many people now that I think about it. So why this out of every other possible challenge? Well, first, I just straight up ran out of f***ing ideas. I'm very serious. I'm coming up with this idea as I'm writing this episode, just like the other challenges. However, no better ideas coming up inside my massive cranium, so I'm just settling with this and calling it a day. However, the second and more important reason is why I'm making myself do this challenge. Just like the previous challenge, I'm slowly incorporating habits that I used to do but I eventually gave up on. In the case of rising early, I was waking up closer to 6, but that's besides the point. I want to get back into the habit of waking up early, as I used to pride myself on being an early riser. However, now that I wake up at times that I would rather not disclose, I'm now making myself go through this challenge just to ingrain that habit in my thick skull. After the challenge ends, I'll be adjusting the time to make it more sustainable. Now that I think about it, there's a third and equally as valid reason for making this my next challenge. There are several benefits to waking up at 5 AM, which are backed up by science. Kind of embarrassing that I'm only thinking about it just now, but whatever. It's better now than never, as the saying goes. Well, I think that's how it goes. Oh, you get my point. So there are apparently several impactful mental health benefits to rising at such an early time. According to a few large studies, people who wake up early are less likely to develop depression or another similar mood disorder. In fact, one study with 840,000 participants claims that there is a 23% reduction in risk of major depression. Given how I've battled with depression in the past, I'll do anything to avoid seeing it in the octagon again. Also, waking up that early allows me to be more in control of my day. Barely anybody's awake at that time, and it gives me more time to screw around before doing more productive tasks. In turn, I get more time to do productive tasks like working on my podcast or studying calculus. And according to this one study, there are some physical benefits as well as circadian rhythm benefits. So people who wake up at an earlier time have stronger immune systems and have reduced risk of developing a chronic disease. It also helps regulate the circadian rhythm, your body's internal clock, which in turn can help boost energy levels throughout the day. A few more benefits include a reduction in stress, being more alert and present, higher chances of developing more healthy habits, and better cognitive function. Oh, I just remembered the fourth reason for waking up at 5 AM. There's this one book that I read called The 5 AM Club written by Robin Sharma, and I absolutely loved it. I must have subconsciously chosen 5 AM because of the book. It follows a power-hungry corporate ladder climber who is considering taking her life and uses the tickets her mother bought her for a seminar discussing the benefits of waking up at 5 AM. I won't spoil the book too much, but it's basically discussing the benefits of waking up at 5 AM while sharing some insightful quotes, all in the form of a novel. Thanks for listening through. It means a lot. You can find me on Spotify, YouTube, Apple Podcasts, and Amazon Music. Please like, subscribe, comment, whatever to boost engagement, as that really helps the show. In the next episode, I'll be creating more routines for Marvel and DC characters. This is Arthur, signing off.